That's why having it on the Hoonigans, having a bunch of Hoonigans look at this thing.
Hoonigans.
It's going to be actually pretty neat.
So we got a 94 Supra here, turbo, and it's owned by Enrique Munoz. This guy is an enthusiast. He's owned this car since 2001. He has gone to Japan to get a bunch of the wild body parts for it before they were able to get over here in America. He's the real deal. This dude contacted us like a week or a year before we started to work on this car. Basically said, I got an idea, I want to do this car build. What kind of parts should we get together? So I gave him like a parts list of some things that I'd like to get in the build, and I hadn't heard from him. I figured he just disappeared. But he spent a year acquiring the proper parts that we requested for the build, and we sat down and we hammered out this idea of what we're going to do here. It kept spiraling out of control as usual.
Enrique's a graphic artist by trade, so he's got extremely attention to detail, which is awesome for us because you gave us direction on a build, and then we could try to bring out your vision as opposed to just build my car and just do whatever you want. So we were literally following Enrique's vision on this thing. So,
and plus, you know, my brother and I have been building these cars and racing them since 1996. We have a long history with the Mark IV Supra, and this car has got every element that we wanted to do in one of these cars in 20 years of building them in this one car right here. We spent 2 years building this thing, and there's no sins on it. You could take panels off. Behind the panels, you're not going to find anything hidden. This thing is as good as we can make it, and we put a lot of effort into it. And another thing that makes this car special is if any of you guys saw the SEMA Battle of the Builders show. We brought this car to SEMA in 2015, and we displayed it there and entered in the Battle of the Builders, and we were blessed enough to have this car be chosen as one of the top 10 of the show on top of 1,100 cars. So we appeared up on stage in the top 10 with Chip Foose, the Ring Brothers, Bobby Alloway. I mean, the absolute best of the best. This was the first Japanese car selected for that honor. And it's a huge milestone for us as builders, and it's a milestone for import cars, in my opinion, too, to be in peer group with those guys. It's huge.
Up until that point, I mean, you know, we were just the kids that played with the cars, you know?
Yeah.
So now we were standing on stage with the people that, you know, we grew up
that
as
we
legends.
idolized, and that, you know, the people that we tried to emulate with our style of building these cars. Because, you know, when we built this car too, it's like we used a lot of cues from hot rodding to build this thing. And you'll check it out when you see underneath the hood. It's just it's a lot of shaved, a lot of tucked, and a lot of hiding everything and just making it as clean as possible.
You know, so this adds up to this guy's car. Is just it's very unique, and there's so many people that have tried to duplicate what we've done on this car, which is so flattering. But it's awesome. But they've never been able to complete the whole package. I mean, there's just so much effort, so many talented people involved in the project. It's all in here. We're really proud of it, so I hope you guys enjoy it, you like it, appreciate it. We try to pay respect and homage to the Supra for what it is and not change it too much, but really just elevate it. And
it's one of those cars that I've always wanted.
Timeless, lock it in, you know?
Yeah.
And when we show you the bottom, like, again, going back to the hot rod theme that we grew up reading Hot Rod magazine, we just, you know, we eat hot rods for our whole lives. And we just got involved with the Japanese cars because we just love the technology, turbocharged fuel injection, multi-valve, you know, is just, you know, it was really just pushing boundaries for us and exciting. But the bottom of the car, I mean, we were ready to debut this thing, and we missed our debut date because it wasn't right. So we talked to Enrique, and he let us do the bottom of the car. So we started on the bottom of the car, which was a 9-month journey to do the bottom of the car to the way we wanted to. So
there's 37 pounds of bolts on the bottom of this car.
Love all the molding. It's so nice, and because I can't like fathom this much work.
And even like these here, these are all converted over to LEDs also, on all the lights on the outside of the car, which just make a little bit of a difference. And just when you park this thing next to a new car and it's got the old bulbs in it, it's noticeable that it's an older car.
I agree with you.
When you convert them over, man, it's just tough to tell what you're looking at in traffic, you know?
This is something that I've seen quite a few times in modified cars and Japanese cars, where you come up to some old head and he's like, what kind of car is that?
Yeah.
You know, they think it's a new car.
Big time.
Like it's brand new.
Yeah.
You're like, man, this is...
And that's a sexy looking car too, because it's like, you don't see cars like this anymore.
Exactly.
Like, what the heck is that?
Yeah, they're like, where do I get this kind of Ferrari? Like, it's a...
Very flattering.
It's a Toyota.
Yeah, it's a Toyota.
Yeah.
And it'll run like it too.
Well, speaking of run like it...
So my brother and I, we've been road racing one of these for years too. And so when we first started road racing these things, They literally could last 3 or 4 laps and they would overheat. There was a couple people out there trying to do it. And we spent a year or two trying to do that because we're coming from a drag racing background. So we drag raced these things for 6 or 7 years before we started road racing them. So we know how to make outrageous power. That's not a problem.
Yeah.
But then we had to figure out the new scenario, which is keeping it alive out here in Southern California. So, I mean, we spent a lot of effort into this cooling system on this car, which is implemented on this car here, the same exact system that we use. And, I mean, we could run this thing out in the middle of Willow Springs at 110 degrees, and it'll do a 45-minute session, no problem.
That's amazing.
It's pretty flipping cool.
I've had a few JZs myself. That's what I use in my own track car, and that's one thing I noticed. Heat will spike up pretty quickly.
Dirty because it gets used, but
It was driven here. It wasn't. This didn't come off of the trailer.
I mean, I couldn't believe when this guy actually started driving it in the street, you know, because it's like you can actually drive this thing, dude, after what we just went through, and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna fucking drive it.
The moment he drove it home was like gut wrenching, you know.
Like, where's the transporter? Where's
he drove it home.
The bubble wrap.
Yeah,
I'm that good to drive it home. Like,
so these are stainless steel hard lines, which this is neat.
Fuel.
So like the factory car has got an insert up here that you got to push a tab onto. So we welded these male studs onto here so that we can make the billet brackets here for the hard lines,
Really
the
like
flex
these.
fuel sensor.
So you made the billet brackets too.
We actually got the billet brackets and then converted them over to work how we wanted them to work
Gotcha.
a little bit better. So we changed them up a bunch, and
and then adapted the car to fit.
and then adapted the car to fit them.
Yeah.
And since it runs a flex fuel system, so it runs the E85 or gas back and forth, the whole fuel lines are all PTFE lined, all crimp fittings there, Brown and Miller Racing Solutions, and then, you know, nice stainless hardline. You can't have anything raw aluminum or steel with ethanol. It'll just corrode and rust. It all has to be stainless or Teflon.
Got 2 fuel pumps, the flex fuel sensor, and
What fuel pumps are it?
So it's got 2 Bosch 044s.
2 Bosch.
It's got 2 Weldon pre-pump filters, and it's got a Weldon post-pump filter up there also.
And everything else coated as well.
Coated and you know, painted, and even the undercoating was like
we had to gather up, like, I don't know, like every undercoating that we could find and do a bunch of test swaths and give them to Enrique to go over to see which one he wanted. And even then we had to him and haw about the way we applied it to get this texture and sheen that he wanted. So, I mean, again, it's the way the light reflects off everything. So he's very particular about these type of things, which is very cool then, because we get direction and we have to execute on his, you know, his wishes. So it was a fun build, man.
And it's a factory diff?
Factory diff, yep. Factory gearing in there. We actually just went through it. It's got a TRD differential in there, limited slip.
TRD?
Yeah.
What coilovers are on this?
It's got the HKS coilovers on it, and they're actually really nice. They work really nice for street cars, and they're good for a circuit car too. So it's actually a really nice suspension setup. Nothing too harsh either, because he's driving down the street, you know.
It's not a race car. It just needs to do its job right.
Put the ATI dampener on it.
I was trying to see if I could sneak up in there and look at the wiring.
The bulkheads.
Bulkheads, yeah.
If I could move the light, maybe to see it.
I can kind of see up in there, but you have. I see you relocated the oil filter.
Yep.
Out here.
To make it easy to service, and plus it gets our oil pressure sensor in there too. We get the feed for the OP sensor in there. So we got a temp probe in there, and the oil pressure sensor feed there.
We run different damper up front.
Yep, ATI. That's the only thing that we changed on the engine, is putting the fluid dampener on it, just to make sure that the harmonics are nice, because the factory one is good, but after 100,000 miles, I mean, we've seen them even 60 or 70,000 miles coming apart.
Corrode and rip
two
off.
pieces, you know, turning into 2 pieces, because it's a viscous coupling in there. So
It's actually happened to me on my old one.
Did
Came
it?
off, and I had to replace it. And what's funny is they're about the same price
yeah,
as a factory one.
right.
So it's like, why buy a factory one when
Sure.
you could get something as nice as that, which won't go out?
Yep.
I was at the racetrack one day and I was walking through the pits and somebody was they were taking their 2JZ head off or something. They're like, oh my God, I could get my front pulley off of it. And I'm looking at them, watching these guys go crazy. And they're like, we gotta get a puller, we gotta get a puller, we gotta get a puller. I'm like, dude, you guys could probably just pull that off because it's a factory one.
Yeah,
Because it's aluminum and it's probably so many miles on this thing. And they're like, what? They're like, just shut me up. And I'm like, you could probably just pull that off. And sure enough, just wiggled that thing right off
Wiggle
the
it
front.
right
Wiggle
It's-
it right the fuck off.
Yeah.
I mean,
How many times my customers call me and the factory one is like just rolling past the car? Like,
Yeah.
I pull up to a stoplight, you hear a bang, and your dampener is just rolling down PCH or something.
yeah,
See
how did it
a
happen?
Custom bracket here for power steering.
That actually was the AC that occupied that
Yeah.
area. So
Yeah,
once
but
you remove the AC, it takes off a triangulation mount for the power steering pump, and the power steering pump can flex. So we always put a brace in there when we remove the air conditioning to triangulate it in so it stops moving around.
Really nice under here, guys. Some quality work and attention to detail.
Well, if you guys can appreciate it, we're all car guys here, so you know what the fuck we're looking at.
And again, this thing, this car has been, he's driven it to 24 shows since we completed this car. I mean, it's been in Vegas, I mean,
so I'm driving here today.
It's almost too much.
Really love the fuel setup. It's nice.
So I mean, it was like a radiator mount over here, and you gotta just cut everything out, and you have to make all this structure to support everything, including the splitter.
Yeah, when we did this, not to change, but I mean, Brown and Miller didn't have black hose ends. They were just getting over into black. So we had to give them our complete fitting list that we wanted for the whole car, and they special anodized these for us to make sure that we had everything that we needed in black. And before they converted their whole line over to being blue and black. So this is like one of the first cars that got everything done on black in it from Brown and Miller, and they custom did it for us.
And that's a lot of work to just map out everything.
That's the other thing. It's like, you get 1 or 2 extras.
Yeah.
Make sure, but other than that, it's a couple $1,000s worth of hose and fittings.
You want to be spot
and you got to make sure you're pretty tight on the list, because if you mess something up, you're going to be like kicking yourself.
Yep. Got to have a detailed list.
Big time. It helps to do them a couple times and make sure you know where you want to do it, but so you can see some of the electronic stuff that's here that was up top of the car that was kind of moved it down here.
Everything's been tucked away.
Yeah.
Got all these screens for protection back here.
Yeah, just keep the debris from beating up the coolers.
That's a really big cooler.
Yeah, it's pretty dang big. The oil pump in this thing is stout, so it's not a problem with the pressure. So,
And this, you just run a factory oil pump, or?
Yeah, factory oil pump.
Oh yeah. And this thing wasn't gonna have a built engine. It wasn't gonna get leaned on. So we made the subsystems be able to support anything he wanted to be able to do with it,
Yeah.
So if he wanted to in a year from now and go race this thing, please don't, no. No. It wouldn't be competitive, but it's, it's just too nice, dude.
Yeah.
It's just a nice car.
It's
Look, the
exactly
thing is
what you
built to
wanted,
be
it's just
nice, to be looked at, to be appreciated, to be driven around
It's
on
to
a
be
Sunday.
oogled. I mean, that's what we're here for.
I mean, that's what we built this thing for, not to set ET records or anything like that, so.
I'm pretty jealous. I'm actually very jealous. Like, this is something that I would love to drive a day.
Would you
in and
drive
day
this
out.
thing, though? I mean, that's a tough thing. That's what I'm saying.
I would.
Weekends,
like,
though.
The problem
Well,
is,
weekends.
like I'm
Weekends.
building my car like this. It's like, am I going to screw myself? Am I going to drive my fucking car?
Yeah. You need to.
You do have to
And
drive
I
it.
can't,
Will I,
I can't
though?
build anything without driving it. I'll
Right.
drive it, but I'll drive it on the weekends.
That's what I'm thinking. That's legitimate.
But I'll drive anything. But this, man, this is something I would, if I had the time to put into something, or I'd rather have the money to make you guys do it, because
You can't do it nowadays,
it's
bro.
seen too much. They're not going to do this anymore.
We're not doing this any
Doing
longer.
their own.
There's 2 more Supras that need to be built in my world.
Yeah.
His and mine.
Yeah. But you guys are still crafting.
We're still
Still
crafting.
crafting, but we're doing other stuff now, not car stuff.
Not car stuff, but still crafting. And that's
So that's
what
cool,
the
though.
progression is.
Yeah, I mean, we
As long
turn.
as you go make stuff. I make things, I craft things, we fabricate stuff all day, every day.
And we make people happy.
And make cool
Yeah.
stuff.
We make happy customers. We have people happy, so.
Well, I am very happy with this. I wish it was mine.
Well,
But it's not. And I know I have to return it at the end of the day.
Yeah, and then he's going to have to
But-
drive it home in traffic, which is like just maddening to think about, which is crazy, but
Oh, no. How far does he have to go?
30 miles, 25 miles.
And at this time of day?
That's what I'm
That's
saying.
a bad time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's going to turn some heads. I bet you it'll show up on the IG, super spotting.
Super spotted.
Sure enough, man. So
It's good for another 100,000 miles.
these things feel amazingly amazing
Brand new
when they're
Supra.
tight.
Brand new.
It's a brand new Supra.
Which was what everybody would be jealous of, is having a brand
That's
new
what I
Supra.
would want,
This exhaust is so big.
So we this is the crank vent. So we got sick of having the crank vent under the hood and having that smell get sucked in through the cowling. So now we plumb the vent into a separate catch can. That catch can has an air oil separator into it. We run it into the exhaust with a venturi in there, which creates a low pressure, which
Yeah.
draws it in then. So when the engine is running, it's just constantly drawing and putting the crankcase in vacuum, basically.
That's
So,
awesome.
It's not enough to suck oil out of the bearings and cause any kind of problems or anything, but what it does do is it just gets all that gas out of the back of the car, and it makes the driving much more pleasurable, you know?
Your
Yeah.
lady will get in the car too and not have to worry about getting out and smelling like fuel, which is like, it's like holy crap.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And we got to run exotic oils in a lot of these things. So, you're running like a fully synthetic race oil with ethanol, and now,
It stinks.
It stinks. It smells like a machine, like I dig it, but you can't let your girl get out of the car and go out to dinner. It's like people are smelling you guys from 4 feet out. Like, holy crap.
It burns your eyes.
Well, yeah, that, and you smell like what the hell
Like
have you
you've
been
in
doing?
the garage all day.
Yeah,
Sure.
Machining.
right. Not driving.
Yeah.
So back in the days, there would be no muffler. The crank would be vented into the cockpit. You wouldn't care.
Yeah.
It wouldn't make a difference. But you get a little older, you want a muffler, you want it quieter, you don't want it to smell. You want it to just be a little more refined, you know?
Is it a harsh clutch to drive or pretty streetable?
It's very streetable. We did make when we had our business, we had an adapter that uses a tilt and 3/4-inch master for the clutch, which moves, displaces more fluid than the factory 5/8, so it makes it a lot easier to work, a lot easier to drive. And this clutch is all, there's no clamp load on the pressure plate, so it's all on the carbon disc. So,
The effort is really light, but it makes it difficult to manage with the factory slave cylinder, with the amount of fluid it displaces. So we basically made a part that solves that, makes the clutch really nice and modulatable, and then you just last a long time and you don't kill it.
That's good.
yeah, because it's expensive.
Yeah.
Very.
Very expensive.
Very. But they hold 1,200 pound-feet of torque cold, the
Yeah.
clutch. So when they send it to you, it's got a build sheet of how much torque that they ran it on at the factory before they test it and send it to you, and they'll all hold over 1,200 pound-feet cold. So
It doesn't have that massive, pressure plate. Like, it pushes the thrust washers
Yeah.
to the front of the engine all
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah.
So-
So flexing the firewall sort of.
yeah, I mean, and then your left
Pushing
leg
it
is
way
like a
too hard.
bodybuilder leg because you're used to grabbing the wheel and doing that, and screw that, Hydraulic force will do that for us. And hopefully people at home will dig what we did here, man, and kind of like,
That's the other thing. It's like,
Get inspired.
Yeah, well, we can't show anybody this thing necessarily unless we bring it to a place like Hoonigan's there where you can take a look at it for 20 minutes.
I mean, even if you see it at a show somewhere,
You can't see this.
crawl underneath it and poke around in it, and you can't talk to the builders for a couple hours,
Yeah.
because I'm not going to go to the show. So if you want to have an idea of what we did to make this thing
You
happen,
can't appreciate the detail.
yeah, I mean, this
If
is
you see this at a car show, you never get to see underneath it. You never get to see everything that they've put into it, or even know that they've replaced every bolt in the car. They've touched absolutely every part. That everything's been handmade. Everything like that. All the thought process that went into it with you guys and Enrique, and just seeing how the light hits the car for the show and everything else. And
I'm totally digging it, man. I'm glad you guys let us
pleasure
come
finally
through.
meet you guys for once.
Fucking A.
You guys have fun. I'm gonna get out of here.
Yeah, man. Let's go
I
have
don't wanna
some
wash this
Cambodian
car
food
all
and
the way.
drink some beer.
Cambodian food.
We're in Cambodia town. Let's
Man,
go.
of course, I'm in.
Hell yeah.
I'm down.
Let's do it, man. Long Beach.
I'm definitely down for Cambodian food. It sounds good.
I'm fucking hell down. This is the venue where you can see this.
It's amazing. I'm glad
So-
you guys came out.
I'm glad we
I was
came
just
here.
I'm glad we
ready
came
to
in too,
nerd
man.
out on this car with you guys.